Imagine this. It's 2 a.m., a quiet street, a lonely ATM glowing in the dark. A man in a hoodie walks up. No rush, no panic, just calm. He inserts a card, types a PIN. First, a few $100s come out, then more and more and more. The machine just keeps spitting cash, far beyond anything that card should be able to withdraw. The security guard watching the CCTV thinks, must be a glitch. The bank will probably blame a software bug, but this isn't a glitch. It's not an accident. Somewhere in another country, a hacker is sitting in front of a laptop, quietly making that ATM rain money on command. No guns, no masks, no hands in the air, just code, just access, just the internet. And behind this silent robbery is one of the most dangerous cybercriminal groups the world has ever seen, Carbanak. Over the course of several years, they're believed to have hit more than 100 banks and financial institutions across dozens of countries, stealing up to $1 billion. In this documentary, we're going to break down how they got inside the banks with just a simple email, how they watched employees for months like a live reality show, how they took remote control of ATMs and accounts, and what this means for your money today, even if you're watching this from the US, the UK, Australia, or anywhere. This is Drift, and this is the story of how hackers stole $1 billion from banks, the Carbanak heist. Let's begin. For most of modern history, a bank robbery looked like a movie scene. A car screeches to a stop. People in masks storm the lobby with guns. Someone shouts, "Everybody down!" There's shouting, fear, security cameras rolling, police sirens in the distance, getaway car, chase, news headlines. That's the old world. Today's most dangerous bank robbers don't even step inside a bank. They can be sitting in a tiny apartment on the other side of the planet, wearing sweatpants, drinking coffee, typing quietly on a laptop. No noise, no witnesses, no dramatic footage. All they need is one thing: access. Every time a bank employee opens an email, logs into a system, or downloads an internal document, there's a tiny crack in the wall. Carbanak didn't want credit card data to sell on the dark web. They aimed higher. They wanted to rob the bank itself, from the inside, through its own systems. Not by blowing the vault open, but by making the vault believe they were the bank. The story begins around 2013 to 2014. Somewhere across Russia, Ukraine, and parts of Eastern Europe, a group of highly skilled hackers started organizing. They weren't kids playing with scripts. This was structured, patient, and professional. Security researchers would later give them a name: Carbanak. The name came from the malware they used, a blend of older malicious tools and new custom code. Carbanak wasn't one single hacker. It was a network. Programmers writing malware, operators running campaigns, money mules collecting cash, and likely people specializing in money laundering and fake companies. They behaved less like a group of random criminals and more like a covert organization. Their mission was simple to describe, but terrifying in scale. Don't just steal data, don't just steal credit cards, steal the money directly from banks, and they were willing to wait months for the perfect moment. So how do you break into a bank and without touching the door? You start with the weakest part of any secure system: people. Carbanak's first weapon wasn't some futuristic supervirus. It was a regular, boring-looking phishing email. Picture a regular bank employee. It's Monday morning. There's coffee on the desk. The inbox is full. Among all the messages, one email stands out, but just barely. The subject line looks professional. The sender name seems familiar or internal. The text sounds like normal office communication. Here's the updated client list. Please review the attached compliance report. Salary adjustment details, confidential. Nothing looks obviously dangerous, so the employee does what most of us would do. They click. They open the attached Word or PDF file. For a few seconds, it might even look normal, and then silently, without any flashy pop-ups or warnings, a hidden program installs itself on that computer: a backdoor, a secret tunnel, a remote control switch. From this moment on, Carbanak has a foothold inside the bank's network. No alarms, no errors, no visible damage, just one quiet connection that will slowly spread. Getting into the network was just the first step. Carbanak didn't rush. They didn't hack in and immediately start smashing buttons. They did something smarter and creepier. They watched. Their malware didn't just log keystrokes, it could record videos of the employee's screen. Imagine someone recording your monitor for weeks. Every login, every system you open, every button you click, every internal tool you use. That's what Carbanak did to bank employees around the world. They watched how tellers moved money between accounts, how supervisors approved large transfers, how ATM systems were managed, how the internal banking software looked and behaved. For months, hackers sat in the dark, essentially watching a tutorial. This is how the bank moves millions of dollars. This is how the ATM network is controlled. This is how balances are updated. No Hollywood hacking montage, just patient observation. Over time, they learned the bank's systems so well that they could operate them almost exactly like the real staff. In some cases, they weren't hacking around the system. They were using the system exactly as designed, just with one small difference. They were using it for themselves. Once they understood the banking systems, Carbanak moved to the next phase: take the money. They used three main methods to drain cash from the banks. 1. ATM jackpotting. In many cases, Carbanak gained control over the servers that manage ATMs. Normally, an ATM checks, does this card have enough balance? Is this PIN correct? Is this withdrawal allowed? The banking system decides yes or no. Carbanak inserted themselves between those decisions. They sent commands directly to certain ATMs so that at a specific time, those machines would simply start spitting out cash on command. No real customer balance, no real withdrawal request, just money pouring out. At that exact time, a money mule would be standing in front of that ATM, not hacking anything, just collecting the cash while the machine emptied itself. From the outside, it might look like a strange glitch. From the inside, it was a perfectly timed robbery. 2. Manipulating account balances. The second method was much more subtle. Here's how it worked. The hackers picked a real customer account. Let's say it had $1,000 in it. Inside the bank's internal database, they temporarily increased that balance, maybe to $10,000. They moved the extra $9,000 to one of their own accounts elsewhere. Then they reset the original account back to $1,000 so the customer never noticed. From the customer's perspective, nothing looked wrong. Their balance was normal. Their statements added up. But behind the scenes, the bank's books were bleeding. The loss was floating somewhere inside complex internal numbers, not on one person's statement. No angry customers, no public panic, just quiet theft. 3. Direct wire transfers. The third technique was the most straightforward and the most brutal. Once they had access to the systems used for wire transfers, Carbanak simply started creating legitimate-looking transfers from the bank's own accounts to accounts they controlled overseas. Sometimes they used shell companies, fake corporations set up just for this. Sometimes they spread the money across multiple smaller transfers to avoid suspicion. 2 million here, 5 million there, $500,000 somewhere else. From outside, it could look like normal business activity until someone started joining the dots. Bank by bank, country by country, the total damage climbed. Hundreds of millions of dollars, possibly close to $1 billion. All moved through the bank's own systems. This wasn't a local story. Over time, evidence suggested that more than 100 banks and financial institutions across over 30 countries had been targeted. Incidents were reported across Eastern Europe, Western Europe, parts of Asia, the Middle East, and beyond. In many countries, banks saw ATMs misbehaving, funds disappearing internally, and mysterious transfers leaving their systems. Some of them probably never spoke about it publicly. No bank wants to put out a press release saying, "By the way, we just got hacked for several $1 million." But behind closed doors, IT departments were panicking. Auditors were rechecking numbers. Security teams were trying to figure out what is happening to our money. This wasn't one bank's mistake. It was a global pattern of digital robbery. Here's the disturbing part. For a long time, nobody realized they were being robbed. Why? Because Carbanak's strategy was built around one principle: don't be noisy. They avoided large, dramatic thefts from a single place. Instead, they moved moderate amounts across different institutions over long periods of time. No sudden explosion, just a slow bleed. Banks started noticing little things: ATMs that were dispensing more cash than usual at strange times, internal accounts that didn't quite match expected numbers, transfers that technically followed the rules but felt off. Eventually, some financial institutions did what they should have done earlier. They dug deeper, they checked system logs, they looked at login times, they analyzed unusual access patterns, and they found something chilling: logins happening at strange hours, remote sessions launched when no employee was supposed to be working, unknown programs running silently in the background. Bit by bit, the shape of the attack was revealed. This wasn't random. This wasn't a glitch. Someone was inside. Once multiple banks realized their problems looked suspiciously similar, they did something important. They shared information. They sent samples of malware, system logs, and suspicious files to major cybersecurity firms and law enforcement agencies. Researchers compared code infrastructure, domains, IP addresses, tactics. Slowly, a pattern emerged. Different incidents in different countries were tied back to the same campaign. They gave it a name: Carbanak. From that point, it turned into a manhunt. Cybersecurity teams traced command and control servers. Investigators followed money mule networks. Law enforcement in Europe and elsewhere started watching suspects believed to be part of this operation. In the following years, authorities in some countries announced arrests tied to Carbanak-linked groups. Did they catch everyone? Probably not. But the myth of an untouchable, invisible cyber gang started to crack. It's easy to romanticize this story: million-dollar heists, international transfers, remote control ATMs, luxury apartments, sports cars, fast money, the kind of thing you'd see in a Netflix show. But the reality of a cybercriminal life isn't as glamorous as it looks. Behind the big numbers, there's constant fear of getting caught. Phones that can't really be trusted, travel that has to be carefully planned, money that can't always be spent openly. The threat that one mistake, one wrong login, one betrayed partner could bring everything down. And when you steal directly from major banks, you don't just have local police watching, you have financial regulators, national security agencies, international organizations, all with a reason to hunt you down. Carbanak pulled off one of the boldest digital heists in history, but it came at a cost: a life lived in the shadows. Now you might be thinking, okay, this is about banks. What does it have to do with me? Quite a lot, actually. Carbanak exposed problems that exist everywhere, in big corporations and small businesses, and in our personal lives too. Let's break it down. 1. Phishing still works. The entire operation started with one thing: a believable email, a click, an attachment. That same trick is used every single day against regular people. Maybe not to steal $1 billion from a bank, but to empty someone's savings, hijack their accounts, or lock their files for ransom. 2. Behavior is a password. Carbanak didn't just steal passwords. They studied how people behaved, how they moved money, how they used software, what normal looked like from the inside. In the digital world, your habits are part of your identity. If someone can imitate your actions inside a system, they don't need to hack the system in the traditional way. They just become you. 3. Convenience versus security. Companies, including banks, constantly balance making things fast and easy, making things safe and locked down. The more convenient a system is, the more opportunities there are for someone to abuse it. We do the same thing in our own lives, reusing the same password everywhere. turning off two-factor authentication because it's annoying, logging in on public Wi-Fi, storing sensitive info in plain text. Carbanak didn't just show that banks can be vulnerable. They showed that everyone underestimates how fragile their digital life really is. Here's the uncomfortable part. A lot of security experts believe that yes, much of the damage could have been prevented. Not with some magic product, but with boring, disciplined basics. If employees had regular, serious training on phishing and social engineering, unknown attachments and macros were better controlled internal network. Monitoring flagged unusual behavior, faster access to ATM control systems was strictly locked down, large transfers and balance changes had smarter checks, then Carbanak's campaign might have been spotted much earlier. The problem is, training is boring. Security feels like an expense, not an investment, and most people, including executives, assume it won't happen to us. Until it does. So what happened next? Carbanak as a name started to disappear from headlines, but that doesn't mean the playbook died, quite the opposite. Other groups studied their methods, some copied them, some improved them. Today we see ransomware gangs locking entire hospital networks and city systems, state-linked hacking groups targeting financial institutions, stock exchanges, and crypto platforms, new malware families that quietly sit inside networks for months before doing anything. Carbanak was one of the early loud warning shots, proof that if you can get the right access, the entire financial system can be turned against itself. Let's bring this back to you, the person watching this on your phone, laptop, or TV somewhere in the US, the UK, Australia, or anywhere else. No, you're probably not running a global bank. But there are 3 simple lessons you can take from this story. Lesson 1, I'm too small to be a target. Is a lie. Carbanak went after banks. Plenty of other criminals go after individuals, your accounts, your email, your identity, your credit, your devices. Sometimes your account is used as a test or as a stepping stone to attack someone bigger. You are always interesting to someone. Lesson 2, basic security, is boring and vital. Do the basics. Use different, strong passwords for important accounts. Turn on two-factor authentication wherever you can. Think twice before opening attachments or clicking random links. Keep your main devices updated. These habits won't turn you into an unhackable fortress, but they make you a much harder target, and most criminals prefer easy targets. Lesson 3, don't blindly trust systems, but don't panic. Financial institutions have learned a lot from attacks like Carbanak. Monitoring has improved. Regulations are tighter, incident response teams are more skilled, but no system is perfect. So check your statements regularly. Question strange activity. Report suspicious transactions quickly. You don't need to live in fear, just don't live in denial. The Carbanak story sounds like a heist movie. A secretive group of hackers quietly infiltrates banks around the world. They watch, they learn, and then, with a few keystrokes, they make ATMs spit cash, move millions between accounts, and leave almost no trace. No guns, no ski masks, no dramatic vault explosions. Just access, just patience, just human weakness in a digital age. It's a reminder that a keyboard can be more dangerous than a weapon. An anonymous IP address can be more powerful than a mask. And sometimes the most serious robberies don't happen in front of cameras. They happen quietly, in the background, inside systems we assume are safe. If you enjoy deep dive stories that peel back the layers behind modern systems, money, power, crime, and technology, you're in the right place. This is Drift. If you made it this far, hit like, share this video with someone who still thinks it can't happen to us, and tell us in the comments, if you were responsible for protecting a bank from a Carbanak-style attack, what's the first thing you'd fix? In our next episode, we'll dive into another story from the dark edge of the digital world, where code, greed, and fear all collide. Until then, stay curious, stay safe. And remember, the most dangerous stories aren't always on the front page. Sometimes they're hiding in the logs,